goodness, I could give you a better example of very personal, but very close with Mum. And when I became Christian, well, she said, yeah, well, you'll grow out of it. And I thought, oh, but it's all about loving kindness, and I've learnt my loving kindness from you. How could you have that reaction? And she held true to that reaction too. I mean, poor soul died in bitterness. She hated Dad to the end. I mean, 25 years after he was dead, she was still hating him. I couldn't say a good word about her husband, my dad. She jumped down my throat. I benched it once or twice, and it was not a good idea. And I realised, quite quickly, no, Mum is not always right. I realised she was not always right on other issues before that, but and that in some sense I did have to keep Mum at a distance. I realised, hang on, I'm valuing Mum, and this is not going to do, because she's a very bad influence in many ways, in spite of being an incredible blessing to me as a mum, as a child. Well, you might say that you don't realise, Marshall, there are other faults you have, and that stems from their relationship. Yeah, well, fair enough. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. I'm not quite clear which at the minute, but But do you see, I realised now I have to put my solid values of, what I understood to be compassion and godliness before Mum. And if you like, in simple terms, I have to put God first. So, instead of, dutifully spending maximum time with Mum, no, that's not the way to go, Marshall. That's not what I quite value. I value maximum time with God, in a sense. I don't mean I did it that purely and all the rest of it, but you see what I mean. Your experience of worshipping your God will lead you to consolidate what you understand to be right. Now, it is possible, I suppose, you could have such a mix that your God is so up the creek. Well, I suspect if that's the case, you'll find there isn't the consistency to hang on. And, there'd be more work in this world than for some people, perhaps. But it's still the only way you can go. You must worship the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength, if you wish to proceed on the spiritual path wittingly, as wittingly as you can, as understanding in your best understanding. And you will realise how there's certain things, I realised, I suppose before I had any notion of trusting in mythical gods, that wasn't right to eat meat. Didn't want to be part of their suffering and killing. Why am I doing this? Do I need to? Mum thought I did need to, that you ruin your health if you're vegetarian. And I thought, not sure about that. Let's see. Pretty reckless, wasn't it? Not really, no. I was concerned about the animals. I didn't want to be part of their suffering. This is abominable. Or can I move in the right direction? I'll just be vegetarian. I'll still have dairy, I won't be vegan. In fact, vegetarian was rare enough, leave alone considering being vegan. That was off the planet. So I moved in that direction. In other words, I was worshipping my God, wasn't I? Putting it first. Putting it first before the advice of Mum. I actually thought, I don't think she is right here, even if she is Mum. And a good Mum, from my perspective. But not that good. I don't have to copy her in all things. The wonderful thing is our students will do better than us. We're proud of that. We can't quite understand them. Or perhaps we actually learn from our kids. That's rather lovely, isn't it? When we do that. Wow. We realize we're so blessed by our children. Now, suddenly it occurs to me, crosses my mind, are we going to do this with God? I hesitate to say this because I've got the notion of God being appropriate to be worshipped. But I am clear we're able to be a blessing and a joy to him. And in a sense, it's almost right that we bring something to his life that he wouldn't have had without us, and it makes him more complete. Else how could we be a blessing to him? I don't know. What do you think? Bless you. Lord bless you and keep you. And do practice this 3-part triangular type breathing. It can be a great blessing, especially when you're in great difficulty and, well, quite honestly, you're having a great deal of trouble trusting. And your emotions are everywhere and your mind can't be tamed. And spiritually you feel just up the creek. Come that you might have life. And God breathed into Adam and he became a living being, a living soul. And Jesus has come that you might have life eternal. Do you see? You just quite simply focus on the breath. Repeat something that you find extremely reliable and wholesome, normally, when you're not in this chaotic state. I suspect these words, we are the love of our dad, could be fairly reliable. Not perfect, but reliable, right? You repeating that is a lot better than some of the things you could be working through in your mind in this crisis, in this stress and perhaps great loss situation. It's a good practice. The breathing becomes regular, long and deep. And your emotions, thoughts and spirit tracks accordingly. It just does, thank God. And you find a certain peace and order comes upon you. Such that you can hear God better. And taste and see, it works. Well, bless you. But don't forget the other key things. I mean, basic principle, we're here to love our God with all our heart, soul, mind and strength. Not just our God, as Jesus' ministry is, to tell you, and you to tell the world, that he is our dad and loves us. And that will give them the real rock and foundation to build on. And incidentally, in your concern to do this, you will be so incredibly blessed because he does a greater thing in you than through you. But when you're sent and acting accordingly, I don't mean ramming the gospel down people's throat that doesn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Do it with all good reason and precaution, not reckless, but in faith and trust. I spoke to how many people yesterday. There was a carnival on, a secular carnival, wasn't it? Christmas carnival. Hardly anything about Christ in it, my goodness. But how many people did I talk to? And around the lake when I went for a walk again afterwards. And I do it in faith. I talk to people. First one, I wasn't even thinking of, I'm sent. I'm walking down the road in Cambridge. There's all this crowd and there's people. And there's an older lady with 2 or 3 other people. Quite sophisticated lady. She looks up and catches my eye as I pass. And me, her. And there was a meeting of almost a recognition of each other, almost. You know, she has noted that you're passing and you have noted her. And honestly, there's thousands of people there. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I suppose it's thousands. And certainly hundreds and hundreds. Hundreds and hundreds. And I don't stop walking. I go past and I'm passed by about 100 feet. I think, you give her your card, Marshall, that shows her your contact and your YouTube reference. Marshall Richard Hope. I did, and of course she accepted it because we had caught each other's eye. And I just said, follow me on YouTube. Didn't say anything else, and she said, thank you. Or the equivalent of. You see, I can do things in faith and in trust. But I'm not reckless. There's over 1,000 people, easily. Probably a couple of thousand there at this carnival crowd watching. I only gave a card to 1, 2, 3. Well, 3 of them for sure. Might have been a 4th, I can't remember. Do you see? I'm not reckless. But I do have the faith that I'm sent and act accordingly. Now, some people think this is still reckless, but it's less reckless the more you know God. Well, that's a bit of insight. I don't know if that's well, I do. I guess that's a blessing to tell you that. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for your loving us. What drives us to reach out to others? Well, compassion, and why not reach out to everyone in the crowd? Well, I can't relate to everyone, and well, honestly, it's pearls before swine for many people. They're not that's overstatement and a bit harsh, but you know, it's the biblical one, but they're not all ready. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. You'll know. This person's chatting to you and they're relating, and you think, wow, Lord, am I going to just pass on and let him give him the opportunity of knowing you better. So I do. Give him my card. So, hey, follow me on YouTube. How many do? Don't know, a very low percentage, I would imagine. That doesn't matter. That would be nice if it was everyone, but it's not. It's lovely that it is who it is. You've blessed some people, perhaps you, that's listening at the minute. What a lovely blessing to me to know that I've been a blessing to you. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Thank you, Dad. Bless you. Lord bless you and keep you, and I'm sure he does. Thank you, Dad. Now, just an insight into, shall we say, coming to know our God better. Your God. My mum, you see, I mean, not meant to be. She's a child of God. Got faults. Massive fault that I think wrecked her life, which was what came to be a hatred of Dad that lasted for decades. But she had also a great desire that her son be blessed and protected and a wonderful person. Certainly wonderful in her understanding of things, which of course our understanding of things is marred by ignorance and inexperience and so on, but a pure motive that God honoured and made her a wonderful mum to me. Wonderful blessing. Do you see, God uses all things to good. I don't know what, Dad's spiritual progress was. I mean, to find out that the most beautiful woman in the world is not necessarily to be prized above all things. She can still hate you, and then it's murderous, even though you feel you're doing the noble right thing all the time. I'm surmising what the lesson could, in some sense, perhaps be to Dad. So, I mean, a blessing to Dad too, but I mean, oh my goodness, a hardship in many ways. I mean, a blessing in other ways. Got this gorgeous woman, which, if you're a normal man, is quite important. But God will honour, you see, whatever your, well, quite honestly, your nobility is. In my dad's case, I mean, integrity, faithfulness, keeping his word, reliability. You could rely on him. I feel God honoured that, in that I was impressed by this, and even Mum was impressed by this, against her will. Not against her will. She did accept that this was of value, of course. It's just that whatever she saw his perceived failings as resulted in her hatred, as she sees it. I should say, as she saw it, past tense. I suspect our view in heaven is rather clearer. So God honours all that's good in us and works on it, brings it out, values it, responds accordingly, supports it, gives it life. In this case, life into me, the good points of Dad and Mum become something I want to embrace in my values, my being, who I am. And this is God honouring that which is of Him, His values, in each of, in this case, my parents, that it be fulfilled in me, to whatever extent I'm able, of course, but you know what I mean. Why do I attempt to thank God for all things that He allows in my life? Because I want to trust Him that He is well able to make such a blessing, despite how they might appear to me, or even because of the way they appear to me, as a problem, as a concern. So it's an act of faith, because that's what I want to be. I want to trust Him in this way. It's my way of loving Him, my way of saying thank you when I consider all the kindness that I have experienced of God, of Him, of Dad, you see, Heavenly Dad, I mean. Do you see? That's what gratitude does, isn't it? It motivates us to appreciate, to be more like that which we have been blessed by. Who has blessed us? Well, my desire is to believe that it's God, and to Him I owe the thanks, and give it accordingly. And the result is I'm flying. I mean, in joy and in peace and fulfillment, in living the fullness of life. I feel I've entered life eternal already, and I have. I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. They're the words of Jesus in His ministry. And we are sent on the same ministry to those around us. This is our true calling, not tripping off to darkest Africa. Actually, Africa's very sunny. It's not that dark at all. We think of dense jungle, don't we? Not sure we've got much jungle left. Isn't that sad? Well, I don't know. Is it so sad? Jungle's full of terrible things, isn't it? Good as well, but you know what I mean. Thank you, Dad.